Good morning, everyone. My name is Andrew Gelfuso. I'm the director of the World Trade Center in Washington, D.C., located at the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center. We're so pleased to bring you this informative discussion in partnership with Nelson Garcia, CEO of Washington Intergovernmental Professionals Group, or WIPG. For the past 3 years, we've worked with Nelson on organizing high-level conversations featuring congressional leaders and members of the diplomatic corps to offer our followers an in-depth and intimate look at business, trade, travel opportunities in various parts of the world. To give you a bit of our background on our work here, we're the trade programming arm of the Reagan Building and International Trade Center, and the building's operated by a unique public-private partnership between Trade Center Management Associates and the U.S. General Services Administration. We're also part of the World Trade Center Global Association. Our mission is based on a congressional mandate to promote trade, and we host policy forums, trade missions, business briefings, and trade shows. When COVID passes, we're all very eager to welcome you back to the building for our in-person programming. When the pandemic hit us in mid-March, we pivoted to offering virtual programming, and we've conducted over 15 online webinars. Under this pandemic perspectives umbrella, we've had the pleasure of hosting extensive conversations with numerous ambassadors, DCMs, and we recently hosted Honorable Ted McKinney, the Undersecretary from the Foreign Agricultural Service. I encourage you to view these programs and learn more about our upcoming virtual event series by visiting our YouTube channel and our website at rrbitc.com. Again, it's my distinct honor to have the Ambassador of Croatia offer firsthand insights on his home country today. And now I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Nelson Garcia to introduce our esteemed guest. Nelson.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Welcome, everybody. I'm Nelson Garcia, founder and president of the Washington Intergovernmental Professional Group. As a brief introduction of our organization, we have worked very closely with Andrew's organization, the World Trade Center of Washington, D.C., for quite some time now. And normally we would have these events live at the Ronald Reagan Building and International Trade Center, either through a luncheon or a reception format. And we hope to do that again sometime soon, sometime next year. Our organization is composed of professionals from the public and private sector. We are dedicated to working very closely with newly arrived ambassadors and even newly elected members of Congress in order to have them introduced to some key policymakers here in Washington, D.C. in the shortest amount of time possible so they can get their work up and running. Just a few housekeeping notes before we proceed with the ambassador's remarks. We encourage all the participants to use the Q&A function at the bottom of your computer screens. I believe it's in the bottom of your computer screens for any questions that you may have, and we'll get through them as much as possible. Any leftover questions that we are not able to address, we'll forward that to the embassy, and we should be able to get back to you with your answers over the next several days directly from the embassy. A copy of this webinar will be available sometime next week on the World Trade Center Washington, D.C. YouTube channel. Attendees will receive a post-event email with a copy of that link. And with that, let me go ahead and introduce His Excellency Pjer Šimunović, who most recently was the director of Croatia's National Security Council from April 2016 to August 2017, before presenting his credentials to President Donald Trump at the White House on September 8, 2017. Born January 8, 1962 in Split, former Yugoslavia, now Croatia, His Excellency earned a Bachelor of Arts in Philosophy, Comparative Literature, and Italian Language and Literature at the University of Zagreb in 1988. He started his career as a journalist at Večernji List, a conservative daily newspaper in Zagreb, from August 1988 to October 1990. He was then a fellow for European Affairs at the Foundation for Journalists in Europe in Paris, France, from October 1990 to June 1991. His Excellency returned to Croatia in June 1991, the same month that Croatia declared its independence from Yugoslavia. He was back at Večernji List, working as a foreign affairs correspondent from June 1991 to October 1993. His Excellency left Croatia in October 1993 to work at BBC World Service Radio's Croatian section as a journalist and producer, remaining until September 1998. At the same time, he earned a master's degree in war studies at King's College London in December 1997. The ambassador joined the Croatian Ministry of Foreign Affairs in Zagreb in September 1998 as deputy head of the analytical department, staying until March of 2000. He served his first foreign posting at the Croatian embassy in Paris, where he served as first secretary and counselor for political affairs, as well as deputy head of mission from March 2000 to September 2003. His Excellency left the foreign ministry to return to journalism and to the Vicernia list, working as an advisor to the board from September 2003 to February 2004. But when the foreign ministry asked him to return to serve as chief negotiator with NATO, his ambassador, His Excellency, agreed. He served as national coordinator for NATO, as well as assistant minister for international organizations and security from March 2004 to July 2008. His Excellency then left the foreign ministry for the Ministry of Defense, serving as director of defense policy from August 2008 to February 2009, and as state secretary for defense policy. Returning to the foreign ministry, His Excellency served as ambassador to Israel in Tel Aviv from August 2012 to April 2016, before being assigned to the Croatian embassy in the United States. His Excellency is married to Zika Šimunović, a journalist who is a visual arts correspondent for Croatian National Radio, with whom he has a daughter. He speaks English, French, and Italian, and is the author of numerous published articles and books on political and defense topics. And with that, I would like to introduce and welcome His Excellency Pjer Šimunović.
Thank you so much for your beautiful introduction, Mr. Garcia, Mr. Garfuza, Mrs. McKinnon. Everybody, good morning. It's really a great pleasure being with you, and I'm truly flattered by your interest in the first place for Croatia and for what I would like to say to you. First, let me sincerely thank the World Trade Center Washington and Washington Intergovernmental Professionals Group for putting together this event. We all know that it could have been much better if we are physically together, but let's try to make the best of it. My main theme, as it has been suggested, is the economy and trade in the first place between the U.S. and Croatia. I will be speaking about that in a few minutes' time. But let me start with setting the stage. And in that regard, what has to be said, and that has been said by Andrew before, when discussing just simply anything, almost anything, or really anything these days, and indeed most prominently when discussing economy and trade, we have to start from a brutal realization that the discussion gets acutely shaped by the pandemic and its all-encompassing and multifaceted effects with an uncertain future. The many, if not all, things have been upended. Some existing crises have not been resolved. Some of them have been left smoldering. I'm looking at the global geopolitical landscape. The frictions between the great powers has only increased. The international community, the international cooperation has been exposed to a lot of challenges, and it has not been able to withstand some of the pressures. So we are entering into a period of uncertainty, which is not only a medical uncertainty, but it is a geopolitical uncertainty and it's economic uncertainty. And a lot of what we are discussing and what we are living through hinges upon the fact how long this health crisis will last, and when and how it will be resolved. So we all, I guess, start with an assumption that by sometime mid next year, we should be off the hook, hopefully, and that the things will gradually be getting back to normal. But while assuming a relatively optimistic scenario, we also have to keep in mind that the future brings and the nature in this case brings up to us a lot of nasty surprises. So that is the setting, which is, I guess, very, very tangibly felt by us all. having said that, let me start with the brief tour d'horizon, brief overview related to the main features of the Croatian economy, its trend and its outlook. Before getting more closely to the economic relations between Croatia and the US, which is our main topic. Croatian, we have seen overall a global decline of GDP in some instances, more in some instances, less dramatic, but very visible and very disturbing. Croatia has not been able to be spared of that. So Croatian National Bank projects our GDP decline of 8% this year. But for the next year, the projection is of a growth of more than 5%, presuming that there will be no further major deterioration of the health situation. That is what we can say at this specific moment. We have throughout this year, we have been seeing ups and downs. For example, second quarter, we have seen, of course, like almost all of the any country in the world, apart from some extraordinary exceptions, strong contraction of the economy due to the effects of the pandemic and associated protective measures. Croatia, during the first wave, the first onslaught of the coronavirus, was able to contain the contagion highly successfully, bringing the numbers of registered cases at a certain point to zero. And it has, as such, together with Greece at the time, it has been prominently mentioned by the New York Times in an article, actually analyzing how we did it. A follow-up to all that is the third quarter of this year, which has seen a partial economic recovery, particularly during the summer month, during the July and August. Tourism performed remarkably well. The initial assumption back in March and April, May, was that the income from tourism, which is our major industry, amounting to something, give or take overall, if you add associated activities and depending upon how you calculate things, it amounts to 20% of our GDP. So it's the most distinct industry, the hospitality industry, tourism, performed extraordinarily well. Some instances up to 70% of the last year's capacity. So that was obviously there was a short respite during summer. There was, and remarkably so, during these months there was no any surges. At the time, the country has basically reached a certain, when it comes to the contagion, it has reached something which one may call a baseline. We were having like between 100 and 300 registered cases daily, so that looked very manageable. And the tourists were able to, it has been approached very cautiously with the protective measures, but the tourists were able to feel safe and they were coming, which demonstrates how strong a need to relax is. On the first glimmer of hope that things are getting better, everybody came to relax with their families, to go sailing, to enjoy the Croatian islands, and to go to Dubrovnik and to other Croatian cultural and natural beauties. So that led to that third quarter performing reasonably well, and it has also demonstrated the resiliency of the Croatian economy, with the tourism being a distinctly promising industry in a medium to longer term sense, stemming from what we have, and stemming also indeed from the actual demand. which has been clearly demonstrated during these critical times. What we are facing now is a surge in coronavirus cases happening throughout most of Europe, happening unfortunately also in the United States, and happening in Croatia as well. So let me get back to what I have said at the very beginning. We all we can conclude in that regard is that we are indeed facing an overall uncertainty related to the course of the pandemic. Now we know much more than we knew before. Certain treatments are available. The mortality is going down, but still the infection rate is rising exponentially in a lot of places in the world. So this is still absolutely the most predominant threat and the most predominant concern we have, affecting the economy, exacerbating some existing trends, undermining some other trends. Again, we have a resurgence of great power friction. We are having now, and certainly in the foreseeable future, we will be having globalization, but it will be a different kind of globalization than a globalization envisaged before, like an unrestrained global free market. There will be much more efforts from the part of the nation states and groups associated among themselves, like the European Union group of nation states, aiming to achieve something the European Union calls strategic autonomy, being able to have a reliable, strong, and the defendable supply chain, which has been very much exposed as a major weakness for us all throughout this health crisis. And again, which also being part of that geopolitical and economic context, being a member of the EU, brings out an important advantage for Croatia in terms of doing business with and in terms of investing in the country, that it is a part of the reliable supply chain. I will be telling you some more later about it. Fact that the Croatia is a EU member has enabled us to take part in the EU COVID-19 recovery package, consisting of 750 billion euros, so-called next generation EU, which sets apart, divided among the member states, that amount of money from next year to 2024. For Croatia got allocated more than 10 billion euros. 7.3 billion through grants, and the 2.65 billion possible loans open to the Croatian businesses. So it's a major stimulus, it's a major boost, demonstrating clearly for us that the membership in the EU pays off in terms of the creating solidarity and being able to do things jointly and in a coordinated fashion, particularly when we are dealing with such a crisis in which no single country can resolve this issue alone, when the international cooperation, which is in some instances sadly lacking, is absolutely necessary, is the only way forward. So the specific feature of Croatia, which I would like to present, is surely that we are EU member country, which means a lot for the businesses, in a sense that it is part of the common market. When somebody produces, establishing a greenfield, brownfield, any kind of investment in Croatia, there is an immediate access to a much wider European Union market, and this market is compatible with other advanced markets. In many instances, tax-free. Some negotiations, as you know, at this moment with the U.S. administration were ongoing. There were some frictions along these lines, but in our view, nothing which cannot be successfully resolved with the goodwill from both sides. We see the North Atlantic trade area. Not that we see it; it's a fact. It's a major axis of global economic and strategic stability, and by far the largest trading area. So we Europeans and the North Americans are by far the largest global trading bloc, setting standards, cementing stability, and leading the international institutions which are needed to coordinate global functioning of the global system. Other distinct feature of the EU, and which we take part in, is that it is which is very important for the investors and for the people, for any trade dealings with the country, is that it is an exemplary rules-based organization. It is in fact a global norms-setting power when it comes to the standardization, when it comes to the regulation, when it comes to, for example, which is definitely a trend visible before, but being very much in focus during this crisis, moving away from the fossil, from the brown and black energy sources towards the green, towards wind, solar, electric, you name it, which is technologically becoming not only more feasible, but entirely feasible. The trend is visible in all countries, and the European Union in this country, in the US as well, in some federal states in particular. We have seen that has been also an issue during the presidential debate. The European Union is a leader in that with its Green Deal, aiming to transition away from the fossil fuel towards a total reliance on the green energy by 2050. So we are being a member of the European Union economically means a lot. You are basically entering into a system which is compatible with an advanced free market logic, which is judicially sound, and the compatible with what for example the Americans have their own country, and in some other advanced countries such as Australia, New Zealand, Canada, South Korea. When it comes to the other features of the Croatian economy, which are important for the investors and for the people looking to Croatia for doing business with, investing in, or trading, is the fact that over the years with a very robust and independent status of the National Bank, which was able to, together with the finance ministry and together with the governments, able to establish really to balance the books very nicely in terms of preserving the through different crises, starting with the crisis 2008, which, by the way, had hit us rather hard, leading to several years of recession, which ultimately we came out from. Then to enter, unfortunately, into this pandemic mess again. But in the meantime, we were able to establish a robust growth, and it also because of that, which is a precondition for further advancements towards different other instruments of the EU, such as the entering into euro. basically abandoning our national currency, kuna, and adopting fully euro. And the first major move has been made recently, while Croatia is included in the EU exchange rate mechanism, so-called ERM2, which sets the central parity between the national currency kuna and euro, and which is the essential precondition of introducing euro fully. Already, our economy and finances are strongly tied to euro, and the entry into eurozone, adoption of euro as our currency, we envisage it by 2023, the earliest. Again, based upon the very stringent standards set by the European Central Bank and by the finance ministers of the eurozone, of the countries of the eurozone, but throughout the years we have been able to achieve a solid macroeconomic stability, again maintained during the difficult times of the previous financial crisis, and the maintained as well now. So we will be that will be a challenge in terms of the government had to increase largely its spending in terms of the different stimulus packages because of the pandemics. It had to invest in the health services heavily, and the surely certain projects had to be put on a back burner. But again, as I said at the beginning, we have been facing a sharp decline. We have been able to get some the best of it, particularly when it comes to tourism, demonstrating its resiliency. And for the next year, we have a good prospects for achieving robust growth. When it comes to the economic trade relations with the U.S., I may wish to start with an important piece of news, and that is the fact that just recently we initiated with our American partners, with the U.S. Department of Treasury, our finance ministry, the negotiations on the double taxation avoidance treaty. Without that treaty, it was possible to do business. Many companies were doing business, investing, but certainly it complicates things, and it doesn't send a good signal for the investors. And certainly the existence of such a treaty would mean a lot in terms of the increasing trade and increasing investments between the two countries. So there has been a beginning of that negotiation. The first draft of the treaty has been sent to our ministry. Our ministry very fast replied with our own suggestions. So now the thing is between the finance ministry and the U.S. Department of Treasury to find the exact wording, but it shouldn't be. It is a kind of framework document, and we don't envisage any obstacles standing in front of achieving a rather reasonably fast outcome. The other thing stimulating overall relationship is the fact that and also demonstrating a nice strong partnership between the two countries is the fact that over the years we have been working hard, and lately together with the different U.S. institutions, as the U.S. Embassy in Zagreb, State Department, the Department of Homeland Security, to get to resolve the issue of Croatian citizens getting the U.S. visa waiver, basically being allowed to enter the U.S. without the requirements of the visa. And the main condition was to get below the level of 3% rejection rate, and we have just this year we have achieved that. So in a pretty soon, it's up to the U.S. to make that final decision. But that was not the only precondition, but we were able to fulfill other preconditions related to the identity of passengers and so on and so forth. We expect to have a no visa regime between the U.S. and Croatia. Mind you, Croatia never had a visa requirement for the U.S. citizens. So that then many of these issues, on top of other important issues, has been discussed when Secretary Pompeo visited Dubrovnik just a month ago, and had talks with the Croatian Prime Minister and with our Foreign Minister. That was a great visit. So the overall Croatia's economic strength and providing the best opportunities for doing business with, investing, doing the technology transfers, making Croatia part of the wider supply chain in terms of the manufacturing or different aspects of service industry. Consists of, again, I have to mention it first, hospitality industry, which is really in terms of the opportunities offered by that, it's sky's the limit basically. Energy is gaining in importance, including the green energy. Overall manufacturing in some specific areas, different services industry, agriculture, and the agriculture in particular. There will be a huge demand for food. There will be huge demand for clean food, clean water. By the way, Croatia is one of the global superpowers when it comes to the water resources, clean water. We have something truly extraordinary in terms of the amount of water sources, and the nature is unpolluted and very clean. So this is clearly an asset, and in terms of the global trends, this will be very much in demand. I guess one can very safely predict that. In terms of the other major opportunities and major things happening, I mentioned energy, and indeed there is an important piece of cooperation with our American partners related to the energy. There has been a lot of cooperation going on over the years, but this is really something which sets a trend, and that is a trend again, shifting away, transitioning from the fossil fuels towards greener energies, and in the meantime relying on gas, in this case the liquefied gas. And we are almost completing it, LNG terminal on the island of Kirk in the northern Adriatic, capable of achieve the capacity of 2.6 billion cubic meters per year of gas. And the good thing is that the full capacity has been booked for next 3 years, with more than 80% until 2027 by the combination of Croatian and Hungarian companies. The big FSRU ship is already anchored in Croatia in the port of Rijeka, undergoing some modifications before being fully operational. January 1st next year. So, and the U.S. over the years has become, as you know, the energy-wise self-sufficient, and it has become a major player, particularly in the field of the LNG, in the LNG field, liquefied natural gas, with many of the U.S. facilities which used to serve as the liquefaction units being converted into the gasification, into the liquefaction unit, being previously gasification units, because the US was importing liquefied gas. Now it is importing it on a major scale, and this terminal of ours clearly offers an opportunity for the US energy businesses, and it's in itself is a part of a wider European effort to achieve so much needed energy diversification, not to have an unhealthy over reliance on the Russian gas, which brings its strategic problems and the proven strategic problems, but instead having a level playing field, not having anybody a monopoly over the such an important aspect of the functioning of Europe. And in that regard, LNG terminals serve an extremely important purpose of avoiding this over reliance and establishing giving us more choices, achieving a better price. And again, we are coming back to the having truly an allied and reliable supply chain. Also, when it comes to the energy, the LNG terminal we will be having for next year is also part of a larger initiative, so-called 3Cs initiative, putting together from the north to the south, connecting 3Cs: the Baltic, Adriatic, and the Black Sea, and the countries within that region. Basically, there has been a very historical and strong connections and the routes in Europe between east and the west, but not so much north and the south. This is very much needed initiative in order to reinforce that link within the overall European strategy of again diversifying, of connecting the member states very closely in a digital sense, in a transportation sense, in the energy sense, and also providing energy diversification. Also connected to an initiative, we also take part, which is the US-led partnership for the Transatlantic Energy Cooperation. All these things revolving very much upon a necessity to have a reliable supply of energy, moving away from the polluting energy towards transitioning towards green energy, and in the meantime relying increasingly on gas as the cleanest fossil fuel, which is still necessary and for the time being irreplaceable by other sources. So energy offers really it was a major part of our discussion with our many discussions through my tenure here with our American partners in the State Department, in the National Security Council, White House, and in the Department of Energy. A lot of things hinge upon the energy cooperation and energy autonomy, and being able to have reliable partners. And there are no more reliable partners than having partners within in our case, within the EU and within NATO, linking strongly the European allies and the North America and our US and Canadian friends. So it's a logical extension of a strategic reality. Nominally, the value of trade between the US and Croatia should be larger than it presently is. From the figures for last year, it's roughly $750 million. It should be larger than that, because the number of it doesn't include fully the digital economy, which is today very much what the economy is all about. And it does not, by some accounts, tourism is also should be counted as a trade and import and export and import industry. In that regard, the things are looking much more impressive. With, for example, and obviously this year has not been a great year for the U.S. tourists traveling to Croatia or traveling to Europe or traveling anywhere for that matter, or for any travel for anybody. But the last year, using last year as an important benchmark, is that the 700,000 U.S. tourists visited Croatia. So that was a record year. I think it was more than 20% more than the year before, and every year was like 20% more than the year before. So it was like a major. Croatia was really becoming one of the top destinations for the U.S. tourists. Last year we had a beautiful launch by the American Airlines of the first non-stop flight Philadelphia, which is the American Airlines hub on the eastern seaboard, to Dubrovnik. And they started by three or four times per week. And the throughout the summer of 2019, all the flights were fully booked. So it was sensational. It will be back. It will be back again once the plague passes. And I mean, we have felt it during this summer that the people, particularly after having lived through such a tense period, the first reaction they have is they want to have joy, to get some relaxation, and that is what the hospitality industry offers. And when we are talking about the hospitality industry, Croatia is really a case in point in terms of offering the natural and the and cultural beauties, and the being an extremely welcoming country. When it comes to the U.S., I mean, I would say that the pillar underpinning everything else consists of built over the years, consists of the security and defense, political of course, but security and defense cooperation. We are together in NATO. Now, during our accession to NATO, we have been enjoying strong U.S. support, for which we are very grateful. We have been receiving the many U.S. donations and the acquisitions of the U.S. military equipment. We are negotiating further, and we are receiving further weapons technology. We have been providing our troops for operations of Afghanistan, Iraq. We have been a strong and dedicated member of the anti-terrorist coalition. So we have been shoulder to shoulder with our with the American military all over the place, and that has built truly a mutual reliance on each other, and that has established a strong bond. In our case, for example, each and every state has a one of the U.S. National Guards as the main partner. In our case, it's U.S. Minnesota National Guard, and with them we have been forming, for example, joint units for Afghanistan and stuff like that. So this is really kind of almost a total reliance on each other, and it's important in its own right. It's important for our shared security, but I guess it also transpires into different other areas, providing a solid fundament for doing business, doing business between each other, and elevating that level of reliance into the field of the economy, which is I have to say, maybe as we speak, it's a particularly tense moment all over the place because of the health crisis, but we see a far larger economic potential when you're looking at the relationship between Croatia and the U.S. in terms of the volume of trade, in terms of the volume of investments, both ways, in terms of the tourism, again, tourism both ways, again, Croatian tourists coming to US. US is a fantastic tourist destination, needless to say. Academic exchanges, joint research, and again, having all that within the wider context of truly fundamental and strategically so important relationship and cooperation between the European Union and the US. Let me maybe to leave as much time as possible for a discussion and for trying to answer to any questions the audience may be having. Just a couple of my final remarks related to the what I think may be the short summary of Croatia's comparative advantages, which is like, why one should be doing business with Croatia, why it's so special, why it's so lucrative, and why it's so reliable, and why in any sense why I should be doing business in this country and with this country. The first thing, I think, the first feature, which is I guess overwhelmingly important, is the fact, as mentioned, that we are a member of the European Union, which means the access to the wider common market. So the establishing the production line in Croatia doesn't mean that you're only doing it for the Croatian market. The access is to one of the largest markets in the and richest markets in the world, guided by the rule of law, well regulated, but at the same time free when it comes to the trade between the countries. It is stable. It has fundamental stability, and also within the context of an increasing emphasis on having reliable and defendable supply chains. This is truly an asset. This is a supply chain which is reliable and which is within the strategic context happening between not only between the friends but between allies, which are ready to go and fight and die for the common cause, which is an extraordinary thing, very often neglected. For example, and this is what NATO about, and they're in NATO. Also, there is a trend towards making these supply chains closer to home, closer to where you need them, and closer when you make the final manufacturing. So this is my first point related to the membership in the EU. The second thing is that we think that the advantage is our geopolitical position. We are providing connections and being at the crossroads. We are different things at the same time. We are Central Europe, we are Southeast Europe, and we are Mediterranean. So Croatia is truly advantage. Has advantage. It's a vantage point for doing business with all these areas and indeed globally. As I mentioned, when thinking about approaching Croatia for businesses, Croatia is a strategic ally of the US, bilaterally and within NATO. It has a pool of well-educated, qualified workforce, and the high-tech excellence in a number of distinct areas, being digital, electric cars, for example, electric drive. We have one of the leading producers of electric batteries and supercars. By the way, you can check the company out, Rimac Automobiles. They produce supercars, but basically they do the main businesses. That is the fancy parts of what they do, but the real thing is they produce first-class batteries. And just to mention, one of the major parts of our exports to the US consists of first-class handguns, Aegis product, sold in the US under the Springfield Armory brand. So they basically export more than 90% of the produced to the US market. And again, to finish, it has been, I mentioned it several times, but it is truly overwhelmingly important for the Croatian economy. and that is the hospitality industry, stemming from the unique set of natural and cultural assets, gastronomy as well. And again, I think that everybody who has been to Croatia, and I think the rising number of the U.S. tourists coming to Croatia every year was demonstrating clearly the trend, was able to realize very fast that it is a great and the most pleasant place to live. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that I have provided you with a certain overview of the main trends, but we would be more than glad to enter into more details as you wish. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Your Excellency. We do have time for some 2 quick questions from our audience, and we'll get that to you right now. The first question has come from our member, Gerald Dash. In his question, the U.S. has added about $6 trillion into the money supply in response to the pandemic. Since 60% of global reserves are in U.S. dollars, how do you think this will impact the Croatian economy? And do you think that there is an impact on cryptocurrency?
Let me start with the second part. Cryptocurrency, digital currency. This is an issue which again no single country is able to resolve on its own in isolation. I think that this is an issue which needs to be addressed within the community of like-minded countries, particularly those of the Western world, if you wish. As again, I mentioned the transatlantic trading and strategic area, and to see how to deal with the problem, because this is clearly a trend. I'm not sure. Actually, I'm sure that it is not a well-regulated area, and it is very much. It may be a lot of things can lead to doing things off the books. It may end up being, and it gets out of the radar of financial institutions in charge of monitoring the validity and legitimacy of the businesses, and indeed the tax authorities. So this is we need to sit down very seriously and find a common ground how to deal with that, and because otherwise it will be spinning out of control, and I have a feeling that that may be the case. The first thing is the U.S. stimulus, and I think that needless to say, the importance of the U.S. economy for the stability of the world in security terms and in the economic terms. So anything happening in the U.S. has fundamental. Remember the 2008 financial crisis. Remember the big depression. So the U.S. is fundamentally important for the trends and the events in the U.S. have a genuine and the most important impact upon anything which is happening in the world. So the European Union and us Europeans have a vital interest of seeing the U.S. being a strong economy, a strong country, a strongest ally, and us being the partner of choice for the U.S. Yes.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Andrew?
All right, our next question is from Ron Taylor. Tourist and vacation activity is an excellent way to de-stress. Croatia is beautiful for such activity. The pandemic is the opposite. It lays a cloud of stress over everyone, triggering old feelings, anxieties, fears, and so on. We see fear-based behaviors on the rise all around the world since the pandemic started. What do you notice among the Croatian people, if anything?
Yes, I mean, it was the pattern has been repeated all over the place. The first contact with the unknown deadly virus has been a lockdown, and we went into a lockdown, and it was extremely in March, April. It was extremely traumatic. The people are still talking about it, and it affected economy so badly that as I said, the second quarter looked very bad and unsustainable. And then by a set of measures with a measure of good luck, I guess. We were able to reach the zero and get what we had in terms of the tourist season, and the exact explanation and beautiful illustration of the nature of your question is the fact that how much people were frustrated by this trauma, and how fast they would like they wanted to relax, and they wanted to get out of it. And the good example is the success of Croatian tourism this summer, which was when you look at the benefit, it's not a benefit of it's a benefit. It's not a benefit because the moment we live now, it's not beneficial to anybody. But the phrase goes like this: is the benefit of hindsight. We see that was a relatively short respite between the two waves, or two onslaughts of the virus, with the second one being the largest. In our case, in the case of the many other European countries, being the largest than the previous one. We are better prepared. We have better treatments. We have better facility. We know more about the disease, but still step by step, all the European countries are closing down many of the activities, leading to a new trauma. Necessary closures in order to be able to deal with this extreme public health threat, but leading again to a big trauma. Both things lead to a trauma. It's double-edged trauma from the plague itself and from the effects of the lockdown.
Thank you, Your Excellency. We're going to go ahead and conclude from this end. Thank you so much on behalf of the Washington Intergovernmental Professional Group in particular for joining us this afternoon and being our guest of honor at this very important webinar. Moving forward, we do have a lot of challenges on both sides of the Atlantic, and between the two of our countries, I'm sure we can get through this. And hopefully sometime next year open up new opportunities in terms of trade and other parts of our relationship into bigger and better things. So on behalf of WIPG on our end, thank you so much. We did have a follow-up from one of our members, which I will relay to your office regarding an event next year that they would like for you to participate in. And I will get that information to your office after this webinar. So thank you again, Excellency, for your insight, and turn it over now to Andrew Gelfusa for final remarks.
Excellency, I hope to visit your beautiful country soon. In closing, on behalf of the World Trade Center, Washington, D.C., I'd like to thank you for your valuable time and offering us expansive insights on the very unique business and investment opportunities, as well as how COVID has affected the Republic of Croatia. To our viewers, thank you for tuning in, and we hope that you'll follow us on our future programming. Have a great day, everyone.
Andrew, Nelson, everybody, thank you. Thank you so much for having invited me and for having me with you. It has been truly a pleasure and honor being able to outline the certain trends, certain features, and some specificities related to Croatia and to the relationship between the U.S. and Croatia. Stay safe, and looking forward to see you as soon as possible in person.
Thank you.